Yo, what's poppin', Team Dink? Here we are at the pond, and today I am ultralight fishing. You know I love ultralight fishing, but one of the questions that I get all the time is, what is the best line for ultralight fishing? Well, obviously there's about a billion different types you could choose out there, and there's really no right or wrong answer. But today I'm going to fish with monofilament, fluorocarbon, and braid, and I'm gonna talk about some of the key advantages of each. And then at the end of today's video, hopefully you can pick out the one that's gonna work best for your needs. And I'm also gonna share the one that I personally like best. Regardless, I could sit here and ramble all day, but what I really wanna do is catch a fish. Let's get started. Okay, I've got 3 ultralights with me today. One has monofilament, one has fluorocarbon, and one has braid. I'm gonna start with the one with braid, and I'm gonna talk about what I like and don't like about braid, and then we're gonna move to mono and fluoro. I just still have this Donkey Tail Junior rigged up from my last trip. One thing to point out is you can see that there is 6-pound braided fishing line right there, but obviously I have a leader as well to cut down on visibility. And I think that's gonna bring me to the first thing that I really like about this is the fact that this braid is highly visible. So it's super nice when it comes to detecting bites. Being able to see that line twitch left, right, whatever, is such a key way of detecting bites on light gear. That being said, it's also kind of something that I don't like about it because you always have to deal with tying a leader on there. And sometimes on the water, that can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. Now, I will say this, when it comes to bass fishing gear, I always use braid to a fluorocarbon leader on my spinning rods. But with ultralights, I like to have that lower diameter light line that's not super overpowered. And so that's why I went with the 6-pound here. I know a lot of people use 10-pound as well, but I felt like 10-pound would just kind of overpower my setup. So I don't personally like that for ultralight fishing. There's nothing wrong with using it though. As far as casting distance goes with braid, I would say it does pretty good. Once it gets wet, it definitely does better than when it's just like fully dry. But all in all, I think I do actually get a little bit more distance on my monofilament or my fluorocarbon. There's a fish. Oh, I got him. There we go. There we go. What do we got? Bluegill? That would be a bluegill. We're on the board. Excellent. He kind of bit that while I was dead sticking it. He chomped it. There we go. Just a little gill. Now, historically speaking, I've used other braids as well on ultralights, and I will say this, I did not like lower end braid. This is the newest fire line, and honestly, I've had pretty good experiences with this. It does get some line twists from time to time, but it hasn't been too bad. One of the other things about braid that's really nice is it has absolutely zero stretch, which leads to more sensitivity. There's a fish. That's got to be a bass. Yeah, that's got to be a bass. Oh yeah, just a little dink, but man, I tell you what, ultralight bass are always fun. I love it. Man, he was kind of dogging me. He had some fight in him. Well, we got 2 fish on the old braided setup. Not going to complain about that. Here's a small disadvantage, but it is a disadvantage. My line sometimes wraps around my rod tip, and that's always sketchy because if your line wraps around your rod tip and then you go to set the hook or something, you're going to snap that rod tip. I'm trying to think about anything else that might be relevant to talk about when it comes to braided fishing line on ultralights, but all in all, I'd say I pretty well summarized it. It's more sensitive, it's easy to detect bites because you can see that line. You probably sacrifice a little bit of casting distance, and you're probably going to get a couple more tangles in that line from time to time, but all in all, I think if you buy a high quality braid, you can't necessarily go wrong. I'm going to go ahead and switch from my braided setup to my monofilament setup. Here's my monofilament setup, and on here I actually have a Rapala Countdown 01. Has one little tiny treble hook on there. This thing's dope. Oh, I can bomb this thing. Oh my gosh. Now when it comes to monofilament, it's obviously a much softer line and it's got some stretch to it, so you're not going to get that same level of sensitivity that you have with braid. But I will say this, a low diameter monofilament casts so far. This happens to be 2-pound test. I've also used a lot of 4-pound tests. Both are fine, but I will say the 2-pound I can get significantly more distance with it. You know, one of the other key advantages of monofilament is it's very budget friendly. It's inexpensive. I happen to be using a little bit higher end monofilament. This is Trilene Sensation, but I can get 330 yards of it for like less than $10. So I'm a big fan. I think we can all agree too, when it comes to light line, you're probably going to go through line a little bit quicker than some of the heavy stuff because obviously it's lighter and it's more prone to damage. And so I would say, you know, you got to be cognizant of what you're spending your money on. Also, when it comes to monofilament, obviously one of the things I like is the fact that I don't have to use a leader because obviously it's clear. This 2-pound mono is basically invisible. I will also say that I technically do like high visibility monofilament too, some of the stuff that's really bright yellow. And the reason is because I can detect bites a little bit better with that. That being said, I do prefer clear these days. I just have more confidence that it's going to get bit better. Oh, he chased it all the way in. All in all though, as far as a summary goes with monofilament, I don't think you can go wrong. It's inexpensive, it gets the job done. I don't have very many issues with it. Sure, I get line twist from time to time, but I find with that low diameter monofilament, I just don't get that much line twist. So I have not had too many headaches with this stuff. As much as I want to catch a fish on this thing, I am gonna put it up for now because I feel like a slower moving presentation is key in this colder water. That being said, like I said, monofilament, it's a great option. Now let's get to fluorocarbon. Last but not least, let's talk fluorocarbon. This happens to be 2-pound fluorocarbon. It's actually a high-end fluorocarbon. It's a Daiwa Samurai. I'm currently throwing a 1/80th ounce Mule jig with a Donkey Tail Junior on there, but this one's all black. The one thing that you have to remember when you're throwing something this light is it's gonna be really hard to cast on a lot of setups. But because this line is absolutely the lowest diameter of all three, I'm definitely gonna be able to throw it quite well. Fluorocarbon is low stretch, but it's also super low visibility, and it's definitely the lowest diameter. So this is basically like Barbie hair, man. Now, because it's low stretch, it is sensitive, but one thing to keep in mind is it's gonna be more brittle than monofilament. Monofilament has stretch, and so even though it's a 2-pound breaking strength, it's not gonna just snap. This, on the other hand, doesn't have the ability to really stretch that much, so it's probably gonna snap a little easier than a monofilament would. Oh, nice little pumpkin seed, dude. Oh, by the way, I'm fishing with my buddy Tyler, TF in the comments. That's a beautiful little pumpkin seed right there. I mean, I'm getting some really solid distance on this extremely light jig. And that all comes down to the low diameter. That's one of my biggest tips when it comes to ultralight fishing. If you want to use a short rod and you want to use light stuff, you really need to go with a low diameter line, whether that's braid, mono, or fluoro. Low diameter will help you get so much more distance. Now, it obviously will cut down on the strength of the line, but I think as long as you have your drag settings proper, you're gonna be fine. Anyways, to summarize fluorocarbon, I will say this. It is obviously really nice, but it's just like braid in the sense that you kind of get what you pay for. If you buy really cheap fluorocarbon, especially in this low diameter stuff, you're probably not gonna have a great time with it. But if you buy the high-end stuff, you're gonna be just fine. There's a fish, there we go. There we go, beautiful fish too. Oh my Lord, look at the colors on that. Donkey Tail Junior catching me an absolute donkey. Pinned the tail on the freaking pumpkin seed donkey though. Look at them orange fins though. My Lord, that's picture worthy.
Right where it splits here, he's got the teal blue to him. I love that.
He's talking about like kind of right in here. That color variation's real nice. All right, guys, I tell you what, that is a beautiful fish, but we're gonna go ahead and let him go. Oh man, that was a faint bite. I was just drifting it, and I think that's where that fluorocarbon really comes in handy. It's very high sensitivity, it's low stretch, and I just had to pop him real quick, and it worked. Oh, there's a bass right in front of me. I think I spooked him though. We'll see. Oh, he's coming to get it. He's coming to get it. He's coming to get it. There, he's got it. Yes, sight fished him. I'm telling you guys, sight fishing with ultralight gear is one of the most fun things ever. He's just a little dink, but he's a gorgeous fish. All right, might be a small fish, but I love it. I love seeing them bite, man. It's so fun. Okay, I tell you what, I'm having a ton of fun out here. The Donkey Tail Junior is working. I'm honestly catching more fish than I expected to, but ultimately I hope that so far you're better understanding what line is gonna work best for you. Because like I said, there's really no right or wrong option. There's lots of great lines out there, and I don't think you can really go wrong with whatever you choose. But what it really comes down to is matching it up to your personal preference and your fishing style. I will say this, I do have a personal preference of my own, and I will share that with you at the end of today's video. But in the meantime, I say, let's catch some more fish. Let's go. I'm just gonna ride or die with this setup because I caught fish right away on it. It's easier to just carry one rod rather than three. There's a fish. What do we got here? Oh my gosh, dude. This sunfish is a tank. Oh my Lord. Dude, look at this thing. Holy crap. Bro, he inhaled that Donkey Tail Junior. He is so girthy. Look at how fat it is. They are such beautiful fish. Man, that is an absolute nice one. Look at how fat it is. Like, just look at that belly. Not the longest thing in the world, but it's just built. I mean, come on. Look at it. All right, let's get a nice release here. Multi-species day too. There's a fish. I popped it out of the grass. This little bass just smacked it. Oh, that's a quick release. There he is, there he is. We doubled up. I was sight fishing this guy. I had my line tangled around my reel. Look at him. All right, well, we doubled up on the donkey tails. He got a bluegill, I got a bass. What's up, Tyler? Boom!
Boom, fish bump.
Fish bumping. Not a very big fish, but nice for this little pond. I tell you what, there's not a lot of donks in here, so I'll take dinks. There's a fish. What is this? He's going sideways. This is probably another pumpkin seed. Bluegill. Bluegill, pumpkin seed, largemouth. Loving it. Honestly, a bigger bluegill than I'm used to for here. There's a lot of small bluegill in this body of water. Ah, this is what I needed, man. I love a good day of just ultralight multi-species fishing. Oh, dude. Your reaction's so fun to watch right now. I'm gonna catch a bass right here. I just saw one cruising. There he is. I saw him. I love sight fishing for bass. Oh my gosh, isn't that great? Not a very big fish, but he's freaking dogging me. He don't want to give up. God, man, this ultralight game, it's just the best. It is the best. All right, he's a mover and a shaker. Yeah, the movers and shakers on Morgan Street, eating donkey tail juniors. Pretty long, you know, for an ultralight fish. Look at that tail right there. You see all these black spots? He's got that parasite. It doesn't harm the fish. It's all good. All right, nice fight. Thanks, buddy. That looks like a decent bluegill right there. There he is. I say that looks like a decent bluegill, and sight fished him. That's my best bluegill of the day for sure. You know, based on the fact that there's a lot of overpopulation of these little 3-inch bluegill, it's nice to catch one about that size. Okay, so my GoPro just died when I landed that bluegill, but I tell you what, this is a good time to go ahead and summarize. All in all, like I've said several times, there's really no right or wrong answer, but I would say my personal favorite happens to be monofilament. It's low diameter, it's inexpensive, and it just flat out works. I don't have very many issues with it. Oh, Tyler's back here just catching fish while I'm trying to summarize. Tyler just got a beautiful pumpkin seed, but I tell you what, this trilene sensation is definitely my go-to line. I think you can't go wrong. 2-pound test is definitely my preference, but again, 4-pound is fine too if you're a little bit nervous about the 2-pound stuff. That being said, I don't think I'm gonna fish exclusively with this. I've really become a big fan of that 6-pound braid as well. I've been using it all day today, and it works quite magnificently. And the particular line that I'm using is this Fireline Ultra 8 carrier. It's a white color, and that allows me to detect those bites. Stop catching fish. Give me a break. Ultimately, I guess what I was saying before Tyler caught a bunch of fish and so rudely interrupted me is that there's lots of great line choices out there. I think that mono is what I would choose if I could only have one, and in particular, the trilene sensation. But because I can have more than one, I like the braid as well. And quite frankly, the braid I personally prefer when I'm using just a little bit heavier stuff because it does cut down on the castability. I don't want to use the really light stuff. If you fish with a lot of really light gear, I do think that the mono is a little bit better. Okay, I am going to spend some more time trying to catch some fish, so let's see if we can catch a couple more, but all in all, I've pretty much said what I need to say. All of the lines that I've used today, I will link in the description below so you can read more about them. But let's get back to fishing because I want to catch a couple more fish before I go home. Let's go. There's a fish. What's this? Oh, baby. Big old gill. Oh, that's not a bad one right there. A lot more of these bigger gills than I thought. They're starting to show up. Gorgeous creature. All right, see you, buddy. There's a good one. What is this? What is this? Is this a bat? No, that's a crappie. That's a nice crappie. All right, I'm on the crappie board, dude. He's so yellow, dude.
Yeah, I think that's because they're living in the grass.
Beautiful, gorgeous fish. That was a fun little adventure. I'm glad I put the ultralight to use, but I think I'm gonna go home now.